unfortunately, maybe fortunately, you'll notice nothing is due, but we do have information that we're going to be writing down about these biomes. And for the rest of the week, it's unfortunately not super exciting stuff. We may go outside tomorrow so I can show you something. But it is a lot of information for the next few days. That's going to finish it off and then get us ready for the test. So there will be a little note usually on every day, and then there'll be a little bit of a reading out of the textbook. So it's just the way it goes. We're just at the end gathering some information up about this. Okay, so up to this point, we've talked about, obviously ecology and populations, and we talked about, how populations can grow if the right factors are there, the right food and potential for growth, and again the death rate and all that type of stuff. And so we've learned about how we can count that stuff and calculate that stuff up. And what we want to talk now about is properties of very specific ecosystems. All of the ecosystems I've talked about so far have just kind of been in general, right? A producer, a consumer, we talked about food webs, but nothing specific. And that's what we want to talk about today. Specific ecosystems that are in North America and then ultimately in Canada. So biomes is a very specific term, and you can define it there. So for today, we're talking about specific types of plants and animals that can exist in certain regions or certain areas. So large geographic regions with similar climate and characteristics of plant and animal life. Again, last week we talked about, factors that can affect these populations. We talked about, weather and temperature, and whether for an aquatic ecosystem there's a lot of salt in it. All those types of factors that affect things, what its optimal range is, or whether it's tolerance, whether it can survive. So now we're specifically speaking about specific areas in the world that have specific characteristics. Another definition, there will be boundaries between these zones. So at some point you have to go from a place where there's a moderate amount of green growth, et cetera, to the point where maybe a desert exists. There will be a transition area. Again, if you continue to go north, you will go from an area where there's, lots of trees. They may be pine trees or a particular type of tree. And if you keep going north, you eventually will end up where it's too cold, where the number of trees will decline, and you'll ultimately then end up in the tundra, all right? So there will be a transitional zone. Ecotone, boundaries between biomes that have a gradual transition, all right? Sometimes called the transition zone. We can sometimes see this boundary, not necessarily just by traveling north. In this case, you can see the boundary by heading up the side of a mountain, because similar changes take place as you go up in altitude, right? If you go high in altitude, the temperature tends to decrease, and it results in a transition between where you have lots of trees and not very many of them, all right? It's also a change in soil as well. To go up on a mountain, obviously, there's no soil there, there's more rock, so there's other changes as well. So ecotone is the boundary. We're good to go? Everybody seems to be. So what factors affect then a biome? Well, three important factors, abiotic factors that determine that. The presence of water. So if we're talking about something like a tropical rainforest, lots of water versus a desert, a very limited amount of water. Now, energy. I would have liked to just put temperature there, but wind is also a factor. So if there's a lot of wind in that particular area, that's going to restrict the amount of plants that are susceptible to breakage, right? They're not going to survive there. So strong, hardy tree-like structures with lots of wind will survive. So when we say energy, it's a combination of temperature, wind. If we're talking about an aquatic system, it might be rough waves, right? That would churn that water up under the water, so that might change that aquatic ecosystem. So that term energy allows for a couple of things to be kind of lumped into one, with temperature obviously being part of it. And the soil type, which allows for various different organisms to grow. If the soil is very good, it's got a lot of organic matter in it, then lots of plants are able to thrive and survive, versus something like sand, again, in a desert, that will not have a lot of plant matter there, or certain types of plants will be restricted to that area. So those are the three factors that essentially affect that. Okay. Are you attempting to type this with one hand, Harrison? That is exciting. For that matter, the PowerPoint is there, so I might show you a better way to deal with this. All right. So don't necessarily worry about not getting this typed up. I'll show you another way to do it. Okay. We're almost done anyway. So 6 major biomes in North America. And then at the bottom, I'm giving you instructions on what you're going to do out of the textbook to complete this lesson. So once you're done this slide, and there's lots of time left, you will complete this. I'll guide you by showing you the document out of the textbook, or you can use your textbook. I will explain to you what I want done. And if you get that all finished up, then you can complete your lab. So if you get that finished up, you can work on your lab. Okay? And I could try to tell you properties of these different biomes, but to be honest, I don't know them very well. Tundra is obviously cold. Grassland's got to be grassy. No? What?
Yeah, really down. Grassland is really cold. It's an Iceland is grassy.
All right. I'm completely confused, but oh well. You've done this in geography? Okay, well, see, obviously you guys know a lot more than I do in this case. Anyway, once you are finished there, once you're finished that list, what I'm asking you to do, and I'll bring this back up, but I'm just going to show you right now on the video before I let you get to work. So here's what's going to happen. I want to go to Google Classroom. So in the end here, I've supplied you with the PDF of the textbook, or you have the textbook itself. So what I'd like you to do, what was that page number? Did anybody catch it? 47? 57? Where am I? 48, 49, 50. Where are we? 57, right there. Okay. So what I'd like you to do, right, is I'd like you to write down mountain forest. I want you to write all of the abiotic features, and then I think I want like 2 or 3 biotic either animals or information about it. I don't need all of it. Like, I really don't care about marmots and squirrels and elk and black and grizzly bear and I don't care that much about that stuff. Put a couple of them, all right? Now here, low diversity, that's actually more information to me than a caribou, all right? You see what I mean? So write a couple of bits about the biotic, write all of the information about the abiotic for those 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, all right? And the last thing here, and I'm going to open this in a new window. I hope it opens up. The last thing here is I've given you this map. Open it up on your device. You can use a stylus and do your best to kind of draw in the areas for the ones that are on that page in the textbook, so you can locate it a little bit. All right? Everybody kind of imagining the way that is? No? Well, that's just yes. Okay. All right. No? Oh, all right. So you're going to just do that in your notes, copy it down, try to label that the best you can, and that's all. That's going to be the rest for today. When you're done that, you can then work on stuff. If someone asks me to go to the bathroom right now, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm just going to absolutely lose my mind. All right, Danton, what do you got? Good stuff. Excellent. Okay. So hold on. Let me just stop my recording here.